can't do none of this without me. You need me. And I need my sister, so what are we doing?
The story with Monet, Lorenzo, and Tariq St Patrick is about to hit a major crossroad in Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. Lorenzo not only mistakenly killed Monet's firstborn, but he took away someone that would allow Monet to exit the game. This life that only ends up in death or jail. A life that she was eager to curate a plan to leave after Drew was shot, and a plan which didn't include Lorenzo. But now that's been ripped away from Monet. Monet and the rest of the crew are going to be deeper in the game than ever before, which is why I think she's going to lean on Tariq St Patrick as a new way out of the game. But in regards to Zeke, we could also argue the fact it was Mecca who took this away, because hidden in between the writing were clues of how Mecca was actually the one who leaked Zeke's age to the press. He did so because he was someone who wanted control over Zeke and Monet, by any means. But with his age, this was a small Easter egg in Season 1, which actually gave us a clue that Zeke was older than he actually was.
Oh, Zeke, you know about this spot too?
These niggas don't even card me.
It's because you look old as
Now, along with Braden calling him old, Zeke also mentioned that Kane, Drew, and Diana were more like brothers and sisters in the very first episode of Ghost. So the clues are always there that Zeke was older than he was. But it doesn't change the fact there's now one less chair in the Tejada household, and could there be another by the end of Season 3? Potentially Lorenzo Tejada, because even though Monet looks heartbroken and seeking comfort in Tariq St Patrick, she'll want revenge. So in this video, we're going to be dissecting the devastating loss of Zeke, how he puts Monet under real pressure to leave the game, who she'll be turning to for help, and how it's all poised for the death of Lorenzo Tejada. So we're going to look at some different perspectives and brainstorm who could help Monet uncover the truth, as well as some Easter eggs and clues that we've seen throughout Season 1 and 2, as well as the implications for Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. Throughout the first season, we saw Monet trying to shield Zeke from the life they lived in Queens. She made a constant effort to protect him from any threats the world they lived in, by asking him to go inside when the fight erupted between Kane and Rel. She told him to spend the night at home when he had a few to drink, and explicitly told him she wanted to keep family and his life at standstill with Tariq St Patrick separate.
What was the first thing I said to you when we got into business together?
That this doesn't touch Zeke.
I'm glad you remembered.
But the world of Zeke and the game merged into one thanks to Kane, who sent bars to kill Tariq St Patrick in Season 1, which led to retaliation from Lil Guap and the GTG. A gun was placed on Zeke's knee which threatened his basketball career, a career which we knew Zeke would never be able to have, but we could never have imagined it play out the way it did. In the past, we saw Sean in Power struggle with an injury which ended his hopes, and D-Wiz was also known to be a great player of ball in Raising Kanan. Both were killed for a different cause, which is why it was never going to end well for Zeke Cross. Now, once again in Season 2, he was caught up in Kane's mess. He found himself being questioned by Detective Whitman, but dropping Ramirez's PBA card, not knowing he was killed by Kane. So in trying to protect and shield Zeke from the life and events that occurred in Season 1, Monet didn't help his cause either, whereas had he known what happened, he would have been more aware of what to say and what not to say. But Monet was distracted by Dante Spears, who re-entered her life after 22 years, who was giving her this dream world, a dream world which was only ever a fantasy. Now Dante not only happened to be Mecca, who was manipulating Kane, but also Zeke's father.
Listen, Zeke, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but my name is Dante Spears, and I'm your father.
In Power, we've seen a familiar theme where one lie covers up another, and it never ends well for the liar, and that's what happened in Monet's case. She covered this lie for 22 years, and it was uncovered by none other than Diana Tejada, who exposed it in explosive fashion.
Doing an extricated assignment.
Are you okay?
Feeling better.
Now, this was a foreshadow from Season 1 to give us a clue as to how nosy Diana was, and how much of a problem she'd be in Season 2, which is also reaffirmed when she stole Tariq's gun. So with the relationship with Diana and Monet not in the best of places, we saw Diana dig deep into finding out who Zeke really was. She connected the dots by looking at Monet's text, which revealed a text from a mystery character named D. And when Zeke mentioned someone called Dante Spears approaching him claiming to be his father, as well as finding Zeke's real birth certificate, she blew up Monet's secret in explosive fashion. The dinner scene really was one of the highlights and top moments of Ghost Season 2, one which would end up changing the course for a few characters. Monet killed Carrie and made it look like a suicide, because she knew she was someone who Zeke would turn to in a time of need, similar to when he went straight to Carrie's after the altercation with Lil Guap. So her intentions behind killing Carrie were simple. she was closing down all the avenues in hope that he'd only have one option, come back to Monet. But this only made things worse. He knew Monet was lying and his father Dante Spears was as well, but Dante Spears called his role unconditional love and tried to buy his way into Zeke's life. Now at this moment, my thoughts were that this was only going to end in one way, a tragic car crash with a sports car that Dante gave to Zeke. But what we saw play out was even worse. As Zeke decided to take up Monet and Dante upon their offer of leaving New York, he was tragically killed by Lorenzo, who really did make an impulsive decision, which would now cause chaos in Season 3. But again, the foreshadows and clues were really there in Season 1 about Lorenzo making impulsive decisions based on emotion.
Hey, Mo.
You went too far with Kane. You think he makes emotional decisions, but where do you think he gets the shit from?
I did what I had to do.
So where do you guys think Kane gets it from? He gets his chaotic and impulsive decision making from Lorenzo, but Monet does need to take her fair share of the blame for the way Kane turned out too. That was after the conversation she had with Tasha. But with the tragic death of Zeke being revealed to Monet by Detective Whitman, it really will have a huge ripple effect in a number of ways in Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. Now, despite Kane wearing the chain he gave to Lorenzo in Season 2 in this upcoming funeral scene, I do believe this is most likely Zeke's funeral and not Lorenzo's. But in the exclusive first images that were released for Season 3, we're also going to see a memorial at Stansfield from Zeke's former teammates, as well as a speech from Tariq St Patrick. Now, I have been getting questions about what does this mean for Tariq staying at Stansfield, because Simon Stern did make it clear in Season 1, if Zeke doesn't play, you don't stay. But I don't think Tariq's position at Stansfield is under threat, because after all, Simon Stern is a businessman, and he's also invested in Tariq St Patrick. Once Tariq graduates, Tariq's trust will give Simon Stern club truth, so in my opinion, Tariq doesn't need to worry. In fact, he's going to have less college work to deal with now that he's not doing Zeke's papers on top of his own. Although I'm sure that time will be eaten working for the Tejadas under this dangerous new connect. Now, Monet is someone who looks devastated and under real pressure, not only because of Zeke's death, her exit from the game is gone, and she doesn't have anybody she can trust from the Tejadas. Each one of her kids, as well as Lorenzo, have gone behind her back, something Tariq did make her realize in ghost-like fashion in Season 2. But I do make a point of how it's important to look at different perspectives. So where we can argue Diana, Drew, and Kane have gone behind Monet's back, this actually stems from Monet's tough handling of her kids. She told Drew that she wanted more for him, but Lorenzo wants him to take over the organization. Diana wanted to go college and play ball, but she had her play in a specific position, and throughout the first 2 seasons, we've seen Monet nurturing and mentoring Diana to be the brains and think exactly like her. Ironically, that's something that's now caused friction in their relationship, because these are 2 characters who are way too alike. With Kane, she made it clear what he did with Lil Guap is the position he plays. He's the muscle for the Tejadas, not the brains. But again, we saw what Kane did when he went against the family more than once. He killed Ramirez, he's gone after Tariq more than once, and replaced the Tejadas product with powdered sugar to get back in the game, which I do have to say was a clever move, but something Diana blew up at the dinner table. Now, something that didn't help Monet's cause was Dante appearing and acting as a distraction. But the game-changing moment came when Lorenzo was released from prison, which was cleverly orchestrated by Diana. While Lorenzo was in prison, Monet was the boss on the outside, where she was able to have some level of control over her kids. But that vanished the minute Lorenzo was released. But rewinding it back to the topic of trust, and to re-putting everything into perspective for Monet, ironically the only person she can now trust is Tariq St Patrick.
I told you I was the one you could trust the most.
Now, let's not get it twisted. If it came to a decision between Monet and Tasha, we all know who Tariq would pick, and so does Monet. But so far we do have to be fair to Tariq St Patrick. He hasn't done one thing that's gone against Monet or the Tejadas, apart from maybe sleeping with Diana. But again, that was only pushed by Diana once Tariq knew he wasn't working for the Tejadas. And this is the character who she seems to be opening up to in one of the exclusive images for Season 3. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tariq steps up and makes a speech at Zeke's memorial on Monet's behalf, because we've seen him do it before when he gave the eulogy at his father's funeral. Now, I have previously made the case of Diana being the character who pieces the puzzle together about Lorenzo being behind Zeke's death, but in this video, I do want to brainstorm some different perspectives and the role of other characters, so let's start with Davis Maclean. Now, when it comes to Davis, money is the driving force. If you pay, he plays. For example, when Zeke and the Tejadas were under fire in Season 2.
Here's 250 bands. If anything happens in Tariq's case that leads to my family, I want you to tell me.
Double it and it's a deal.
So is it beyond reasonable doubt to think Monet could approach Davis to try and uncover the truth? Because after all, if money talks for Davis, he'd be happy to sell that information to the highest bidder. And someone who could help connect the dots is Cooper Saxe through Jenny Sullivan. So we can't forget about Cooper Saxe's role and him potentially uncovering the truth and even hiding the information from Davis. Because after Lauren, I don't think he wants to see any more death. Working for the other side just didn't sit right with Saxe in season 2. He was in a position where he had to protect criminals rather than put them away. But we know there's going to be a RICO investigation mounting into the entire drug enterprise, and Cooper Saxe will definitely play a heavy role working undercover, and Zeke's death will definitely be on the investigation board. Now, Tariq St Patrick is also another character who will always be in the thick of the action with everything that happens in Ghost. Running it back to if Zeke doesn't play, you don't stay. This was one of the main reasons why Tariq tried to help Zeke clear his name by sending Davis and also helping him with his interview with Jamel Hill. So I wouldn't be surprised if Monet approached Tariq for help, not just by giving a speech, but also because these are two characters who both want to leave the game. And with Monet's original plan dead in the water, she may see Tariq as another avenue of escaping. Because after all, there is a huge trust issue between Monet and her kids, and the only person who's been straightforward with Monet is Tariq St Patrick. But the most likely character to find out the truth before anybody else based on our evidence, facts, and findings throughout this video is probably Diana Tejada. We see her in conversation with Lorenzo at Zeke's memorial, and how does Lorenzo handle knowing that he was behind Zeke's death? That's going to be a big test, because Monet will be leaning on him for support. So with Diana being daddy's girl, I expect her to see the signs and connect the dots like she's done before. So when and if she finds out, whoever else finds out the truth, the information is like holding a loaded gun. And that's the best way I think we can describe this situation. Information of this magnitude is literally like holding a loaded gun. But in whose direction? Because it will end in death, similar to the reveal of Zeke's birth certificate, which not only ended in the death of Zeke, but also Carrie. So what does Monet do when she finds out? In the Crew Has It podcast, Mary J. Blige teased that she had to do something that she really didn't want to, and based on her expressions, it seems like we're in for a big moment. Whether she has to kill someone, or potentially even ask someone else to pull the trigger, let's wait and see. But Lorenzo's life is definitely on the line, and she's gonna need Tariq St Patrick more than ever before.
Look, you kept your word to me, so now I'm gonna keep my word to you. If you want out the game, I won't stop you.
I'm not about to get my money from this. You don't gotta connect, so I think we in this together for now.